This is Barrels and Barrels, a bourbon and baseball podcast, with your hosts, Brandon Spinner and Michael Burns.
And welcome into another episode of Barrels and Barrels, a bourbon and baseball podcast. As always, I'm Brandon Spinner, alongside my partner in crime, Michael Burns. Mikey, just less than a week from Christmas. How you doing, dude?
I'm doing all right. I've had quite an eventful week. I had shoulder surgery less than a week ago, last Wednesday. Very elective, just so I could continue pitching in my adult league baseball. So I've been under the weather. Of course, I have that, and then I get something from my kids that bring sickness home from daycare.
Yeah.
So that on top of that, this is going to be my first pour in over at least 10 days, maybe. So
wow,
I'm excited tonight to get to a bourbon review.
Yeah, we'll get to that a little early on. How's everybody else doing? You feeling better? What do you want to talk about? What kind of shoulder surgery you had? You said it was elective. What did they do?
Yeah, so 3 years ago, I had a giant bone spur because I pitched all my life, and even after competitively, I got into adult leagues, and I had a giant bone spur in my shoulder that eventually, with that, just putting a T-shirt on was tearing at and causing sharp pain. So in 2020, I had that surgery to remove the bone spur, so actual mechanical work. And then COVID shut me down that year. And so I stopped stretching. I stopped throwing as I would just go on with my life. I wasn't going to play that year, so I stopped. And I think with some of that, and I don't think it was all caused from that, but scar tissue started forming up a lot and limited my mobility in my shoulder, which limited my range of motion. I still had good range of motion, but not the best.
Yeah.
And so the doctor thought that there was scar tissue in there enough that if we went and cleaned it up, I would get back my back muscles would relax. Because this past year, I was only able to pitch 3 times, maybe 4 times, because I had back spasms from that scar tissue pulling at my back muscles and tightening it up too much. So I'm excited to get this healing.
Yeah, man.
The stretches really do a number on me. I was nauseous after doing them 2 nights ago. I don't know if I pushed too hard or what, but I'm excited to get into the summer, get prepped, and have a healthy season of adult league baseball.
Yeah, let's get it. Well, hopefully that recovery goes quick. Happy you're a little healthier to at least have some bourbon with me. As you mentioned, it's been a while. This is episode 13. The last couple episodes, we're here in the Christmas season. It's Hanukkah right now as well. So happy Hanukkah to all of those listeners who celebrate that holiday. As far as the Christmas holiday, which is what you and I celebrate, we talked a couple of times about music, about movies, as well as traditions. Is there a Christmas gift this time? That's your favorite Christmas gift growing up or as you've gotten older? Is there one that stands out the most?
I can't think of like a childhood one that stands out the most. I remember in our house in Chicago, we had a basement that we rode bikes in the winter.
Yeah.
It was big enough to ride bikes in. So I remember maybe getting a big wheel or something. I can remember being excited about that. I think in 2015, the first Christmas married, Angie, my wife, got me a 6 foot by 4 foot fathead of Chris Bryant. So it wasn't just Chris Bryant standing there. It was like a big giant poster fathead though.
Yeah. On the wall, like of his cutout.
Right.
Yeah. I had a Dan Marino one growing up, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, so that was pretty awesome because we had just gotten married, just moved, got in our house, and I did have a Cubs room, and so that there was a giant wall that thing fit perfectly on, and just for her to have bought something like that, so committing that room is now a Cubs room,
Yeah.
Of course with all the everything else, but I still remember that was pretty cool.
Nice. If I had to pick, man, the one that jumps out the most was I was a huge Power Rangers fan. like huge. Like that's what the 90s were for me. And I got one of the Megazords. There was a tortoise one, and that's the one that jumps out the most to me, and like the best Christmas gift. Or a Lego pirate ship, which I got when I was pretty young as well. But
now that Turtle Power Ranger, was that the one where the regular Megazord went into it and combined?
I think so.
It, right?
Yeah. It was huge.
Oh,
it was the tortoise. It was huge, and
it had to fit another Megazord in it.
Yeah, and then there were like pieces that went on top of it too. It was badass, but especially for a 6 or 7-year-old who loved the Power Rangers. But that's probably the best gift. I got a snowboard growing up, but it's probably the best. I like to give gifts. I do love receiving gifts, but I also love to give gifts as well. So
it's harder now because, and I see this a lot, like it's a little stipulation, but like, hey, men are a little hard to shop for because when we want something, we buy it.
Yeah.
But like right now, men work, they work, and now they just, husbands and fathers love to just sit and see you guys enjoy your Christmas, that maybe they just want to spend time,
Yeah, for sure.
So, but I think as bourbon and baseball fans, it's really easy to shop for us.
Very, very easy. And if you've got a bourbon and baseball lover and they like stickers, we've got stickers. So I don't know if they make it there for Christmas, and we're already into Hanukkah, but if you want some stickers, reach out. I've already had a couple people ask me about them, and I gave a couple out this past weekend while I was home. I haven't done some listener shout outs in a while. I want to shout out someone in Germany. We've got a listener in Hesse, Germany. Don't know who you are, but thank you for listening. I only know that because of our statistics and the data coming in through our podcast platform.
I bet they found us on episode 9.
Well, they've listened. They're 2% of our listens, so maybe it's a pair of people, maybe it's a couple people, but 2% of our listenership is in Germany. So thank you
awesome.
To those of you listening over in Germany. A big shout out to you.
Morgan,
Reach out to us on Instagram, whether that's WXSpinner89, whiskey_weather, BNB_Burns, or Barrels and Barrels Pod. But we'd love to hear from you, know your name, get to know you. As far as another shout out, I want to shout out to Mama Voss, Marie Voss, my best friend growing up, Dan, that's his mom out in the suburbs of Chicago. And then another shout out to a couple people who got some stickers this past weekend. I went out to dinner and grabbed some drinks at a pretty good bar in Chicago area, the suburbs, with Alex and Aaron, which are the Bourbon Rebellion, and at 630 Whiskey on Instagram. So a big shout out to them. Great time. Great to meet them in person. We've talked quite a bit via Instagram DMs, but it was cool to put faces to names and just like chill out and talk bourbon, talk just life, and get to know each other. So big shout out to them. Speaking of shout outs, we gave a couple out the last couple of weeks. We've had some reviews. We've got 11 reviews on Apple Podcasts. I know we've got a couple on Spotify, at least 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. We've got 5 of them, or ratings, I guess is what you would call it. We've got 3 reviews. So this is a call to you to please just review us. You're listening to this episode, whether that's on Spotify or Apple, scroll all the way to the bottom on Apple, and you can hit the 5-star and then type out a little bit of a note to tell us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, or if there's something. I love
Brandon's hats. They're just so much fun. That's what we want to hear.
Yeah, something like that. Or I love when Mikey just shakes his head at Brandon, or I love it when Brandon calls him Mikey, because Mikey loves when he calls Mikey.
Love it.
But
no one in my life has ever called Mikey.
Well, I got to mix it up. I got to keep it different. So please review us, Apple or Spotify. You can also find us on Amazon. Not too many listeners there yet, but hey, it's a growing platform. We'll see.
But hey.
And if you want to leave us a review or just follow us, you can find us on Instagram at Barrels N Barrels Pod. Again, that is Barrels, the letter N, Barrels Pod. Bourbon and Baseball Podcast, episode 13. And if you're one of the longtime listeners that we've already had, or watchers, which you can watch on YouTube at Barrels and Barrels Pod. But this is the bourbon portion of the Bourbon and Baseball Podcast. This week we're going to be going with one of those seasonal releases. Comes out here the last couple of years into the fall, or at least this is when I saw this one.
This one was late.
Yeah, I got this in mid-November over at the Kroger. I'm gonna
Thank you for not calling it Kroger's.
Yeah,
Thank you.
but it's the Jewels if you go to Chicago. Jewels.
No.
It's at the Jewels at Jewels Asco out there. Go get some pop.
Some coffee cake.
Entenmann's coffee cake and good stuff.
No, not Entenmann's. The Jewel Asco brand. The one making the bakery there.
No, you go Entenmann's. Actually, you got to get.
You can get Entenmann's right here in Alabama.
Yeah, you got to get a Kringle if you're in the Wisconsin, Illinois area. All right, let's get back to the bourbon part. This one is the Maker's Mark BRT-02. So this is their seasonal release over from Maker's Mark. This is part of that wood finishing series, and I think this is year 5 they've been doing this limited release. This is 2022 second edition BRT-02. I'm not going to go with the tasting notes yet because I don't want you to be spoiled. I've already tried this. If you're looking on YouTube, Michael, I sent you one sample, and I've had a couple of pours myself, had a couple of pulls myself. So the bottle's about a third of the way gone. I opened this when I sent you the sample a week and a half ago. So that's just telling you how much I like it so far. BRT-02
I've heard good things.
Comes in at 109.4 proof. Stave details, 10 virgin oak, toasted French oak staves. So that's pretty much it when it comes to the wood finishing series. So BRT stands for barrel rotation. So that's what the BRT is going to stand for. They did something different with this year's releases. 2002, we've created expressions inspired by our unique history of barrel rotation. Hand rotating 200,000 barrels a year is key to both our DNA and our consistent whiskey. So that's why it gets the BRT-02. Last year it was FAE. And this is a chance to push the flavor boundaries of our classic bourbon in truly pioneering ways. So the rest of the text tells you about what you're going to find within the bourbon itself. Couldn't find an age statement on this, but I did see that the MSRP is $59.99. So it's not one of those that's going to break or bust your budget, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not inexpensive. I would say it's right into that mid tier, right?
But the problem though is they gave out 2 again this release. They did BRT-2 and BRT-1. So you have to buy both of them, right?
Right. Yeah, well, and it says in the release
they did 2 last year.
That they are made to be, and it says they are made to be paired together. So they're trying to get you to buy both. But I'll tell you what. I think you're going to enjoy this one. Limited number of bottles. I don't know how many were out there. Have you poured yours yet? Have you cracked it open yet?
I've poured it. I haven't sniffed it. I've tried 2020 and 2021. I never tried 19. I held on to 19 and never opened it. And now I have one of each unopened, of course.
Michael's trying to be the Maker's Mark collector. I should have bought another one for you and sent it to you as a present.
I'm thinking I'll find it. I think everyone held it. All the stores held it for their December releases.
Could be.
Ooh.
Yeah, the nose. So I had some of this yesterday. Shout out shower pour. Have you ever had a shower pour before? Honestly, it's like a shower beer, but a shower pour.
It's very complex on the nose right away.
I have 2 distinct thoughts on the nose.
Wow.
First thing I get, man, is like a chocolate covered raisin. That is my thought right off the bat.
I can get that. This reminds me of that pops in my head, Barrel Vantage. This has a Barrel Vantage nose. Complex. I can't hit like one flavor.
So breaking down the fourth wall, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, you'll actually get to see the notes, but you're going to just hear the crinkling on the microphone. Yesterday I wrote my notes down on a paper bag.
Paper bag.
Because I was like, I don't want, whenever we do this one, I want to have my notes down already. But so for the nose, I get chocolate raisin and then like a brown sugar. Like I was sitting here trying to figure it out. It's almost like a mapley brown sugar, but it's more the brown sugar of it to me. Which we're in the season of baking, so this is a very good seasonal pour in my mind. So
it's very, very complex. It's not, like I said, one flavor. What's the word I'm looking for? It's layered. Like ogres have layers.
Onions have layers.
Well, Shrek, donkeys don't have layers.
So BRT-02 is all about the final years of reaction at the bottom, where it's cooler year-round. So this was... So BRT-1 tells you the first 3 years of extraction at the top of the warehouse, which experiences larger temperature swings, while BRT-2, or 02, is all about the final years of retraction at the bottom, where it's cooler year-round. So what I love about this is it does have that weather relation to it, being the meteorologist that I am. So this is all from the bottom where it's cooler and the temperature swings aren't going to be as drastic as you would get, especially as we're heading into this week, man. Everybody's buying all the bread and milk. Have you seen what's going to happen in northern Indiana and northeast Chicago, like northeast Illinois?
No,
potential for a foot to 2 feet of snow. Like northwest Indiana.
2 feet?
Northwest Indiana is potentially going to see like 36 inches. So from the lake effect. But yeah.
That's why I'm moved to Alabama. Tired of that mess.
Have you taken a sip of this yet?
No, I'm excited though. I'll go in if you want to.
Yeah. So
what color do you see?
Yeah. So it's not quite as dark as some of our previous pours, but I wouldn't call it clear. It's got that amber tint to it. I would call it like a golden honey color, maybe. But it's pretty good.
You say honey, that's what I get right away. This is probably the first Maker's year release. Mm-hmm. This doesn't taste like this does not taste like Maker's right away.
No, I didn't think so either.
This is fantastic.
Yeah, that's my word.
No, your word is beautiful.
Beautiful. I've noticed going back and listening that like I constantly say, "Oh, it's fantastic! It's fantastic." So I'm going to backpedal on that one and say that this is very good. So you said you got honey on it?
Right as it hits that first coating of the mouth, I got honey. Right into honey caramel. Mm-hmm. Very sweet. What about you? Is that a first sip there?
No, that's a third sip. Man, this is a very easy to drink pour in my mind. So my palate, I got a smooth chocolate. It's not like a milk chocolate. It's not a dark chocolate. It's just like very chocolatey.
Semi-sweet?
Semi-sweet morsels. I've got sweet oak, but also I have written down honey and caramel. So you and I are on the same page on this one. I got a very strong honey and caramel the second sip last night and just got it again tonight. Very good. The finish is smooth. I know we're not... Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, usually I do half and half, but...
You're dumping it.
Let's go.
But
so you were going with you got palate to the finish now?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say the finish is good too. It's... I wouldn't say the viscosity on this is thin. It's not... But it's not the like it doesn't expand in volume like we had a couple of weeks ago. What was that? No, I'm forgetting. We do so many of these already.
Heaven Hill?
No, I don't think it was the Heaven Hill. Hard Truth, I think. Maybe.
Yeah, but even my third sip there is changing for me. Now I get Shrek just popped in my mind. I don't get onion.
You got me with...
I'm getting fruit. I'm getting now fruit on the middle of my palate there. And the finish, it lingers out more into it's not a heavy oak, but there is an oak essence there.
That's really where you get the biggest oak. There's some sweet oak up front, but like you get that oaky burn. And not even much of a burn. There's some fire on the back end of it. It's a 109, but I wouldn't. This is not sip like a 109.
Not drink hot. Nope.
No. which is very dangerous. So,
Yeah, look at that.
from front to
I already had
back.
some of that.
Yeah.
What's on your glass? What's your sniffer say there?
It's in Huntsville Bourbon Aficionados. It's
Oh,
a
yeah, one of
snifter.
those ones.
Yeah.
That's what I have too.
That was what we probably bought it at the same time. I don't even know if we knew each other at the time. We may have. I think we did. But you've got the Glen, I've got the snifter. But it's got a barrel with it's shaped like a rocket ship, kind of, because it's the
It's a rocket
City.
ship barrel.
Mm-hmm. So, Michael Burns, what do you rate this? What do you review this on our Barrels and Barrels Bourbon and Baseball podcast rating system?
So, Brandon, I want to give this guy an all-star. This is fantastic on all levels for me. I think it's a great proof. I think it's a good flavor. It's got enough oak to taste like a bourbon, kind of, even though it's... Is it bourbon or is it just whiskey?
It says Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, barrel finished with 10 virgin oak staves.
So this is I think my first all-star right here that we've done. It's got many layers. The fruit it's not overly sweet, it's not overly oaky. It doesn't burn, it's not too syrupy. This is a great flavor, and don't know if it's the sickness, but this thing is powering through whatever sinus congestion that I've got going on, and this flavor is great. I love this one.
You mentioned it's multi-layered, but I think it's consistent, right? You get the nose of the chocolate. I got brown sugar, but more of like, I just think chocolate raisin. That was the first thing. That's the only fruit that I get out of this. There is some part of the palate that I could try to search for the fruit, but from front to back, this is excellent in every way, from the nose to the palate, and then into the finish. And I'm also going to give this an all-star. Because
high five, let's go.
Yes. But yeah, this is one of the better pours that I've had this year, if not one of the best. If I were to make a quick list, this would probably make my top 5 so far this year of things that I've drank. Very good. And for those of you who are new to the podcast, or you're trying to wonder, what are you talking about rating scale wise? We have a 5-tier rating scale going from mind blank, Hall of Fame
to the Hall of Fame.
Bring him to the Hall of Fame. And then All-Star. We're just, you know what? We can start playing audio, like the songs. I think we can play 7-second chunks without getting a copyright lawsuit. But the Hall of Fame song, hey,
get ready, folks.
You're an All-Star. And I'm sure there's just an everyday, and then there's got to be a bench. But that's our tiers. If you're still listening with us, we go from Hall of Fame at the top. Then it goes down to All-Star, which is the second best rating, going into third everyday. Fourth is bench, and then dead last is designated for assignment, called a DFA, which we have yet to rank. This was Michael's first All-Star. This is my second All-Star so far this year.
What did you have? What was your first All-Star? Oh, the King Ranch.
The King Ranch, which I thought was very good, and I think you may have been paper cupped away from going to the All-Star rating.
I benched it because I think I benched it, didn't I?
I think you did bench it.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I tried Stag Junior was out of a solo cup, and I was like, it was still good, but I couldn't you can't appreciate it unless, my opinion, the glass makes the difference.
Glass does make the difference, which is why you always should have some sort of whiskey glass of some sort, or I think you can be okay with a plastic cup that's like one of those hard plastics, not the flimsy plastic. That's what I was drinking out at my mom's house this past weekend, was like a hard plastic cup. So I bought a Glencairn from Malloy's Liquors out in Glen Ellen, because I was like, Mom, I need a cup here, or a glass here.
Mom?
So, Mom.
Yeah, that popped out real hard right there. Mom.
Mom. We're Chicago. Had one of my mom works at a hair salon. My mom owns a hair salon, and one of the
that's why Brian has such great hair.
Yeah, from what's left of it. But
I just got a haircut today.
I got a haircut while I was home,
and
you can only see this. This is exclusive YouTube content. Yeah,
give me and Brandon's haircuts give our haircuts a rating. Send us a message and give us a rating out of 10, or our bourbon scale. Is this a all-star haircut or is this a bench? Please don't tell me it's a DFA. I mean, I went to Great Clips today. Oh no, Great Clips. I can't commit to an appointment. I don't know why. I can't commit to a haircut appointment, but that's kind of like a walk-in.
When it comes to a recording schedule too.
Yeah, so like you can do the app where you check in, it tells you how long you wait, and you go and you walk in. So it's kind of like an appointment, but it's kind of like a walk-in. I don't have to sit there. So that's why I go there. But also, I don't have special. I'm not have special hair like you do or nothing. I just do a little something. Yeah, and that's it. I don't have a routine in the morning.
I do have a hair routine. I use a hair dryer and all of that jazz. But yeah, so I had to grab a glass while I was back home. But we were drinking out of our Huntsville Bourbon Aficionados glass. And this week's whiskey or bourbon was Maker's Mark Wood Finishing Series Limited Release 2022. It was the BRT-02. So a little more on the bottle because I didn't want to give that away to you. You have no idea what the notes are, right, coming into this. So you'll find darker, heavier characteristics with this one with some fruit and chocolate. The tasting notes on front say a dark expression filled with notes of fruit, nut, and chocolate. So I think I didn't pull much of the nuttiness out of that, but
no,
everything else
not dickly at all.
No, you got a lot of nut with your dickle. Is that what you normally pull out?
That's what everyone complained about I think 2018 Bottle and Bond or 2019, because the 18 or I think it was the 17 was everyone raved about Bottle and Bond Dickel, and then the next year came out right away and folks were like, "This one sucks. It's too peanutty." That's what it's alright.
Well, so I did not get any nut out of this, but hey, maybe you can get a nut out of it. I don't know. Teach their own. But
we'll see what this sample can do.
And we might have to put an explicit rating on this episode. But
it's getting hot in here. It's just me, huh?
So you heard it. All-star rating. We do not give those out much. In fact, there have been 3 total out of the 20 ratings we've done so far this year.
Yeah.
And that's a 3 combined. So
this year in our 3.5 months, 3.5 months.
Is it even that much? I think it's 2.5, right? No, it is 3. It's just about 3.
It's 3-ish.
It's just about 3. So a quarter of a year.
We are not alcoholics.
So that's the bourbon review portion of this, but I'm
still drinking it, but
yeah, well, it's great. Going with the All-Star. So if you get a chance, go buy this. $59.99. I got this at my local Kroger's.
No,
I said it just for you, Michael. No, local Kroger here in Florence, Alabama. Very good stuff. I would very much recommend this. If you get a chance to do that, go check it out. So we are transitioning to baseball here in a second. I skipped right over my note. Did you see what was posted on Instagram today? I think I sent it to you.
I did, but I wonder if the weather is going to really affect it.
I don't think it's affecting it at all.
The travelers.
I don't think it's affecting it at all. I was planning on making the trip. So what we're talking about is Old Fitz 19 year. And there's rumors that this is going to be the final Old Fitz from Heaven Hill, which is why I think a lot of people are there. I've heard 2 different rumors about it here in the last 3 days.
You said people are there, like they're there already.
Dude,
I wouldn't doubt it.
91 people in line as of 8:15 p.m. this evening.
Oh my gosh. And it's freezing out there.
Yeah, it's kind of cold. It's cold for Kentuckians, that's for sure. I was planning on going at 4 a.m., and I don't know if I'm going to make that 2-hour drive from here because Old Fitz is like my unicorn.
Yeah, it is.
So, and I'm almost... The bottle I have here is about gone. So,
what year is that one?
This is the 8. So this one that just released was a 19. So you're listening to this. It's already been dropped and released, so we're not helping you out on that front. But it was released by the distillery today that they're going to be dropping an X amount of bottles on Wednesday morning at
December
9 a.m.
21st.
December 21st at 9 a.m. I may or may not be part of that line. We'll see how I'm feeling when we get done with this. But
good luck to you, man.
91 people as of 8:15. I have no idea how many bottles they have. They probably have like 150 would be my max bet, and I'm guessing I'm not going to make it there by that point. So we'll see.
That's tough.
But well, that's
19 year.
Yeah,
that would be great for you.
Yeah,
I know Old Fitz is your.
Well,
we opened that one together.
Mm-hmm. So I've got 2 trivia questions for you this week, Michael. Hopefully you can get one of them.
Bring it.
The second one might be a little tougher. They are this era, so...
Hold on, let me get Google up real quick. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, so...
I don't need it.
After Dansby Swanson was selected with the Diamondbacks' first pick in the 2015 MLB draft, do you know who was picked second overall in that draft in 2015?
2015?
That's of note because Dansby Swanson just got signed by the Cubs, and we'll talk more about that signing here in a minute. But Dansby Swanson was selected number 1 overall by the Diamondbacks. He never played for the Diamondbacks. He was traded by Tony La Russa to the Braves for Shelby Miller. But who was drafted immediately after in 2015?
Carlos Correa to the Houston Astros.
It was a Houston Astros player, but it wasn't Correa. Correa, I believe, was 2014 or maybe 2013. But Dansby Swanson, number 1. Alex Bregman, number 2 from LSU. The second one...
It was Buxton and then Correa in 14.
I thought Correa went number 1 and then Bryant... That was the Bryant draft, wasn't it? No, Bryant draft was
Mark Appel went
Appel,
number 1. Bryant went number 2 and 13.
Then John Gray. Okay. So, yes, it was Buxton. That was the Schwarber draft then in 14 with Schwarber going 4th. So, next trivia question. So, Garrett Cole and Carlos Rodon are now on the same team, with Rodon going to the Yankees. They both struck out more than 200 batters in 2022. Do you know who the last pair of Yankees pitchers to strike out 200 in the same season was?
I'm going to go with Andy Pettitte and Roger Clemens.
He got one of the two correct. It was in 2001, Mike Mussina and Roger Clemens. 214 for Mussina, 213 for Clemens. So I wonder if Clemens got hurt.
It's funny, I was more confident on Andy Pettitte and than I was... I didn't think Clemens was on the Yankees yet at that point.
It was 2001, right? So that was the Diamondbacks World Series year, I believe. But those are my 2. I could have chosen another one, but you would have gotten that one very easily because he was the 2015 Rookie of the Year. But and if you don't get that,
I don't know how was that connected though. Where does that come from?
Noah Syndergard was the 3rd runner-up, I believe, that year or something like that. But
speaking number 2, Bryant, Peterson.
I think Jock.
Syndergaard?
Yeah, I think so.
Young Jock. Yeah. Jock had a great first half.
I think he hit 30 home runs that year, didn't he?
Yeah, he hit he hit 20 in the first half, and then only
just,
10 in the second half. Yeah.
So that jumps us right into the baseball portion. There's been a ton of action since we last recorded. We last recorded last Monday, but a lot of that has been squeezed into the last 4 days or so, really starting on Thursday or Friday. Carlos Correa, of course, signed last week, but there's some controversy behind that as the San Francisco Giants may be backpedaling a little bit. But he reportedly signed a 13-year, $350 million deal.
Agreed to sign.
Yeah, agreed to sign.
I guess we can put it that way at this point.
Because right now they canceled the press conference today.
So what I'm seeing on Twitter, there's some people who are like, oh, maybe he just has COVID. But then I am seeing reports that there are concerns with Correa's physical that had them back up. Who knows? I haven't seen anything official on that front. Have you seen anything quite official report-wise besides?
Not other than the Talking Baseball post that I saw earlier today. But, yeah, that's a cause of concern.
Because Correa has struggled with injury. Whether it's been his hand, his back, I forget the third injury, but he has not been very durable.
And he didn't have a great year after his injury earlier this year too. So I wonder if it was a lingering issue or something along those lines. But that was the biggest fish to fall. And then shortly after that, as we already mentioned, Carlos Rodon goes to the Yankees for 6 years, $162 million. That is an average annual value of $27 million per year. Not a terrible deal. If you think about it, though, it's close to what DeGrom got. He got $5 and $185. So this is a year longer and about $20 million less for, would you call it, the third best arm on the market, right, between him and
Verlander, DeGrom, and then Rodon. But he was the first lefty, so he's the number one lefty on the market. Really
one of the only lefties that was on the market. There was another one who signed. Sean Manaea also went to the Giants on a 2-year, $25 million deal, which I think could be a sneaky one. Until he went to San Diego, he was a pretty decent pitcher. Then he got hurt for the Athletics midway through, I think it was 2021. He threw no-hitter in 2019, I think. Maybe that was the year he got hurt, and he hasn't been able to put it back together. But he was a stud pitcher drafted by the Royals, I think in the top 10 in one of the mid-2000 drafts. I think so. Was he at...
Do you know the trade he went over for? Royals to Athletics?
I can't put... Billy Butler part of that deal?
That sounds right, because Billy Butler... So that's San Diego one. That's the wrong trade. That's still Padres acquire, A's trade. So it's kind of almost, is it a San Diego thing? Because Mike Clevenger, of course, he didn't even pitch a single pitch for the Padres.
Oh wow!
Before
it was the Ben Zobrist trade. 2015 from the A's to the Royals, because Benny was with the Oakland Athletics to start 2015. He got traded halfway to the Royals, won the World Series with them. So
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I forgot he was the A's.
Yeah, he was drafted 34th overall in 2013. I thought he was higher. Sent him to Oakland for Ben Zobrist for Sorry.
Yeah, so maybe Clevenger didn't pitch a single pitch, but he went to the Padres, spent a year and a half of his 3 years deal. I probably spent 2 years hurt because he got hurt at the very beginning of 22. Manaea wasn't the same. Who else? Now Joe Musgrove came over and was
a stud,
an elite
and
pitcher.
Darvish has been pretty good as well since he went over there. I think it's going to be
ballpark, right?
San Fran
Park. No, not San Fran.
Yeah.
San Diego.
I'd say San Fran is too.
Park.
Both of them are, I think, pitchers' parks for the most part.
Yeah, I think so.
But I think that'll be a decent signing for San Fran. $25 million for 2 years for a lefty who could potentially be a number 3-4 in your rotation. That's a better average annual value.
And if it clicks, he's a strikeout machine from.
So Sean Manaea, so that's part of the Carlos Correa team deal. I wonder, maybe they're just. I don't think they would do that. Maybe that's not why they would cancel it. Was to have Manaea there too, or Manaea.
Cancel what?
The press conference, right?
To be like, no, I don't think
but
so.
I think he already technically officially signed Sean Manaea because I think I saw it come through on the transaction wire. Moving on from there, mind-blowing deal in my mind. It's a historic deal. Andrew Benintendi signs a 5-year, $75 million deal to go to the Chicago White Sox. And I say 5 years and $75 million deal is historic because that is the all-time highest contract ever put out by the Chicago White Sox. It's the highest guarantee. Before that, it was Yasmani Grandal, who was, I believe, 4 years and 73. So this is a less average annual value, but it's the highest total guarantee ever handed out by the White Sox, which is kind of embarrassing.
Especially the years of contention they've been trying to go for it all the last few years, and they're just now putting out that kind of money, and it's they must think they see something in Benintendi. Since his rookie year with the Red Sox, he looked like a star coming out of Boston's farm system, and never really has put it back together since his rookie season.
I think what this does do is give the White Sox depth. which they really struggled with last year. You put Benintendi out in left field. So what that does is it puts Eloy out of the field and into a DH role on a more consistent basis. Eloy, when
Keep
healthy,
that guy healthy. Yeah.
when healthy, he's been the best hitter on that team. He's got 40 home run power. He's got the potential to hit near 300 and drive in 100. But he hasn't put together a fully healthy season. So you put Benintendi out in left field. You've got Luis Robert out in center. I think Benintendi's
Robert.
also... Luis Robert. That's been a running joke on Chicago radio is how do we say Luis Robert's name? Because it changes every year. How he...
At least it didn't go from like Mike to Giancarlo or something.
Giancarlo, yeah. Hi, I am Mike. Right? It's like one of those telemarketers. My name is Mike. No, it's not. But yes, sorry, I'm Giancarlo. But so Benintendi, I think he's won a Gold Glove too. Can you look that up while I'm talking real quick?
I think so. Yeah.
So you got the potential for a Gold Glover out in center field too, because Luis Robert, when healthy, can run it down, and he can run it down with one of them. I think Luis Robert has the potential for MVP candidacy if he ever put together a fully healthy season, but he's missed most of the last 2 years with a hip injury, with back injuries, and all along those, so it's hard to, and I think he even had a wrist
He looked
injury.
like such a star coming when he first made his debut. My goodness, even in the minors.
Yeah, a lot of people...
I had him in fantasy, and I traded him away and at a trade deadline.
Well, you're looking good right now.
Bryce Harper. I think I traded him for Bryce Harper at the trade deadline. So not a bad deal. But I lost 4 years of Robert for half a season of Harper.
And then I think they're probably going to go with Oscar Colas out in right field, who's going to be a rookie. But what I'm saying depth-wise is you don't have to worry about Gavin Sheets out in the outfield as much. You don't have to have Andrew Vaughn there at all because he's going to be playing first base. Their one hole is basically second base or third base because you still have Yohan Moncada, who's not been the best. But if you go look at Moncada's statistics, it's every other year that he has an incredible season. So this year, as we go into the odd years are good years, the even years are bad years. So we'll see if that turns around. And then you got Tim Anderson at short. And they're going to have to figure something out at that catcher position. But the White Sox, that depth is much better. They've got one of the best, if not the best, rosters in that division because the Twins are The Twins are good, but they're not great.
Yeah, it's not hard to be the top one in that division.
And the Indians, I think, have the upper hand because they beat the White Sox this year within the division. But also,
I can't believe the White Sox didn't even make the playoffs.
Right. They should have made it with that team, which just comes down to the manager. But so Benintendi, it's incredible that is the biggest deal the White Sox have ever given out. But also,
they've still got the bullpen. They've got a decent rotation with Kopech, Clevenger, Cease,
but it's all right-handed. That's the only question I have on that is after
there's been ideas floating of trading Giolito in his final year, and I've seen rumors of trading Tim Anderson as well. Who knows if they actually do that? I doubt it. I would see Giolito moved more than I would see Anderson moved.
I think you get the most for Tim Anderson right now because he's probably your most consistent and your best player on that team when it comes to leadership and when it comes to he has been hurt the last couple of years at times, and he got suspended to miss some games. But when on the field, I think the record was like astonishing when he's in the lineup and when he's not in the lineup. They were like under 500, and they were like 30 games over when he was in the lineup. Wow. I'll have to look that up 100%, but I know that was a big talking point on Chicago sports radio the last couple of years. With him in the lineup, the team looked way different. But that White Sox depth is better. I just don't know what other moves they're going to make because they were crying poor coming into this signing. Nobody saw this one coming. So for them to put $75 million out, that means they're going to try to spend. Speaking of trying to spend, our frustration, the two of us, you and me, we finally can exhale a little bit. The Cubs signed Dansby Swanson, already mentioned that one, to a 7-year, $177 million deal, which comes out to about $25.29 million for an average annual value. This falls short of Jason Hayward's deal for the biggest in franchise history. Hayward's is still the biggest, but this is close. I think Hayward's was 182 or 183, so a couple million shy of this. I love this signing as a Cubs fan. I know I've seen a couple people
for the price. Yeah,
right. You and I were doing this off screen, texting back and forth with each other with some numbers. It's almost identical what Dansby's numbers are and Carlos Correa's numbers are. And Correa got 13 and 360. Dansby gets just about half of that.
Just about half.
Or 350, excuse me. So just about half of that Dansby gets. His average annual value is slightly lower by about $1.5 million. I think this is a great deal. The Cubs have a fantastic middle of the infield. This is probably top 5, if not top 3, middle of the infield when it comes to fielding, because Nico's a potential Gold Glover. I think in 2020 he was a Gold Glove finalist at second base. He should have been in the consideration this past year at shortstop, but
he's a quiet, great shortstop. Quietly a great shortstop. He hits line drives, gap to gap. I think he surprised everybody with his power and his arm. I mean, the dude was diving into the hole and throwing guys out at first.
So I think moving him to second base, you've got one of the best double play tandems, combinations,
yep.
combos in MLB right now. Top 5 of the 30 teams, and you may even be able to argue top 3, depending on some other teams at second base. But that's a great signing. It tells you that the Cubs are serious now, right? That was the question. Are they going to settle for Bellinger and Taillon? Think about this, though. The outfield in Chicago for the Cubs, you've got Ian Happ, just won a Gold Glove. You've got Colby Bellinger in center field, who's won a Gold Glove. You've got Seiya Suzuki, who was touted as a fantastic defender. So there's 3 right there outfielders who could potentially save multiple runs. You've got a second baseman now, Nico Horner, who was a Gold Glove finalist 2 years in his rookie year in 2020.
Dude's 25.
Yeah, and Dansby
this
Swanson.
This is his first full year.
Yeah, and Dansby Swanson in 2020 wasn't even a full year because it was the COVID year. And then Dansby Swanson, who is now a fantastic shortstop up the middle, whose numbers I thought it was only 1 year because I didn't do my research as well coming into the offseason. He's had back-to-back years. So it wasn't just his walk year. He's put together, and he's healthy. He played 160 and 162 the last 2 years with a combination of 52 bombs, which averages out to 26 home runs. You insert that into your lineup. Of course, you're not going to replace Wilson Contreras, but this is Wilson Contreras' replacement, just at shortstop, not at catcher. And that's their probably biggest issue depth-wise is at catcher, but overall, not a bad deal.
Right, I think he's going to be a great gap-to-gap hitter at Wrigley Field. He in his first 4 or 5 years in Atlanta, he wasn't seen as any kind of power threat at all. And I wouldn't say he's a power threat, but he's a great gap-to-gap guy. And back-to-back years, he hadn't hit more than 26 doubles for the Braves. But in 2021 and 22, he hit 33 and 32. And then also his home run numbers went up, his RBI numbers went up.
Yeah.
His everything went up from those final 2 years. Maybe his OPS or on-base percentage dropped a little bit. No, that stayed on par. So maybe he just figured things out. Guys figured things out late. Josh Donaldson figured things out late. Edwin Encarnacion figured things out late. The game gets young.
29?
Who's that? Swanson?
Yeah.
He's going to be 29, yeah.
Yeah, so 29. He's still in his prime years, and you're not locked into him long term. You've got him for 7 years. He'll be 36. A lot of these guys that are signing this year, they're going to be 40, 41 by the time their contracts are done. So, you're not, if he's good,
you're going to pay for it really in the end. But yeah, but with these contracts, you're trying to pay for the players you want in the first few years, and you're willing to sacrifice in the end. I will say Correa, Bogarts, and Turner do look like solid bats that would be, even if they lose a step, should still be decent at the bottom of your order.
Right. They're not going to hold you down. And at that point, here's my argument too. For people complaining about all this money, the owners are making hand over fist. It's about time the players start making hand over fist. But not only that, it's about time that in a couple of years, we're going to see these salaries go even higher and higher and higher and higher. So in 10 years, where are these salaries going to be? $20 million may be a low point for most of these free agents. It's going to probably be what the lower end free agents are going to be getting because of the amount of money coming into baseball. So
right. And 13 years from now, $25 million is going to be
nothing.
I mean, look at the qualifying offer. It's gone up to almost $20 million now.
Yeah, I mean,
so watch the qualifying offer in 13 years be 30.
So what was 13 years ago? So 2009. 2009
qualifying offer.
They didn't have that yet because they hadn't started that part of the CBA. But let's see who the highest player.
We talked about Barry Bonds' contract 20 years ago. He signed 6 years, 42-ish million 20 years ago.
So in 2009, the leading salaries in MLB was Alex Rodriguez at $33 million a year, Manny Ramirez at $23, Derek Jeter at $21. Those were the highest paid players. Carlos Zambrano was the 9th highest paid player at $18.75. So, just think about where that would rank now. That's not even in the top, probably 50 in the league.
Look at Serger Verlander getting 40 a year.
Right. So 42, 43. So these contracts, while they seem ridiculous in 13 years, they're not going to be ridiculous just because the amount of money coming into the game. So I think the Cubs are in a good situation with Dansby. They still need to add. I think they need a catcher. I think they need to find someone to play first base, maybe third base. Brandon Drury, as we just discussed right before the podcast, comes off the market. Yep. Him and Justin Turner both have signed close deals. I'm surprised Turner got what he got at 21.7.
38-year-old? Yeah.
38 years old. But, hey, he had a hell of a second half. 2 years, 21.7 is the official number. He goes to the Boston Red Sox. And Brandon Drury, 2 years, $17 million to L.A. And I'm sure that's just more so the track record. Turner's been doing it for 5, 6, 7 years, while Drury's only done it for 1 year. He goes to the LA Angels, Brandon Drury at 217. That was my wish list because he's more of the Swiss Army knife. And if you got him,
played second. He could have played short in a pinch.
In a pinch, even at first base. He's spent a lot of his time at first base. So if he needed him, fill in there. But those two are off the market. So pretty good deals. I think we're starting to get to bargains here on the free agency market, right? Look at J.D. Martinez. I'm flabbergasted at this number. 1 year, $10 million to go to the LA Dodgers.
Deal.
That's a hell of a deal because you look at Joey Gallo, 1 year, $11 million. Joey Gallo had 56 freaking hits last year.
Hits, folks, not home runs. Hits.
If you gave him money, if you broke it down and you took this $11 million and you subtract or you divided by all the hits he had, that's $200,000 for every hit he had last year. That's an insane amount of money for someone who has been inconsistent, has been trash for just about 2 seasons. So Joey Gallo goes to Minnesota.
Was Joey Gallo the deal that was? Who was it that tweeted? A formal Josh Reddick tweeted.
Yeah.
That was about Bellinger when Bellinger signed for 17.
I thought it was Gallo, but either way, it's about the same thing.
Either way, Josh Reddick tweeted something about, guess I could have stayed in the game and struck out 200 times or something and batted 200 and got $20 million.
$20 million, yeah. So the Dodgers also made another move for their rotation. I talked about this a couple weeks ago or even last week. I thought that Syndergard was going to do another 1 year deal. And of course he did. And he goes to the Dodgers 1 year, $13 million. Hard to think that's a bad decision for him because being in that rotation, you're not going to be depended on. You've got how many studs? Buehler's going to be coming back at some point later in the year. You've got Kershaw. You've got Urias. You've got
Dustin May.
Tony Gonsolin, who had like an under 2.5 ERA at times this year too. So they've
got I think 1 or 2 studs waiting in the wings.
So there's no pressure there. while the teams got pressured to win, there's no pressure to be the ace in that rotation. So that should help
And
Noah
how much
out.
did he get?
13.
1 year?
1 year, $13 million.
That's a deal.
To head to L.A., which is just about what Mania got for 2 years, but maybe slightly higher on the average by about $500,000, which is it's just $500,000 extra a year.
Yeah.
Mets made another move. They signed a catcher, Omar Narvaez, 2 years and $15 million. That would have been a name that I would have been okay with the Cubs to go after. I think
Who was he with last?
The Brewers, I thought. I thought he was with the Brewers. He's been all over the place. Omar Narvaez, he got traded. He was on the White Sox.
The Royals.
He was on the White Sox. He got traded to the Mariners for, I think, Alex Colomé back in 2019. Okay, so he spent 3 years with the White Sox, then he went to Seattle in 2019, and then he spent the last 3 with Milwaukee. So he didn't play for the Orioles, according to Baseball Reference. But in his career, he's got 51 home runs. In a 7-year career, he's batted .258. That's not asking a whole lot from a catcher with a 728 OPS. That's pretty good. He's been full-time 2 times with...
we were looking at the numbers between the Cubs pitching staff when Wilson was catching and Yan Gomes, and we're not trying to dig here at Wilson. We're just trying to say how important a good receiving catcher can make, not only just behind the dish or at the plate, but how much of an impact he can make on your pitchers.
100% agree. So this is a pretty decent deal for, I think, the Mets. He's going to be 30 years old, so it's not like he's old, right? He's going to probably play. He's 30 now. He's going to play the year at 31 next year. Well, that's not old. Another catcher who I didn't remember was in the league anymore. He goes to the Pirates on a robust $5 million deal.
This is him just going to try and get some value back at the. But Austin Hedges, he was like the big Padres prize possession 10 years ago, maybe.
It just never came around. I don't know if it was even that long ago. I think it was like 2015, 2016. But
it was either injury or they were going for it again then and brought in another stud catcher. Might have been Yan Gomes. When they brought in, they had Hedges on the wings, and then it looked like he was going to be like the backup leading into the starting next year, and they brought in signed a really good catcher. Yasmani Grandal, I think
That's who it was. It was Yasmani. That's who it was. Good call. He came from the Dodgers. But
and just, that's just got to suck. And, you wonder if some guys' careers could have been better if they were just given that opportunity to play every day rather than, hey, you're in the wings, you're going to be our catcher of the future. And you know what? We think we're going to go for it all this year. So we're going to bring somebody in and you're going to play a backup role.
Oh, my word. I'm just looking at Austin Hedges' numbers. Holy smokes. Batted 145 in 2020, 178 in 2021, and 163 in 2022. No wonder why I didn't remember he was still in the league. He must be a good receiving catcher if he's making $5 million a year, because he's hitting about the same he's making. Is trash. Sorry, Austin. Sorry, Austin Hedges.
Trash?
And then the last one.
Hey, babe, we believe in you.
Is Michael Brantley, 1 year, $12 million deal. He returns to Houston. That's an underrated signing. I love Michael Brantley. He brings a lot of leadership to that team. He
on-base machine.
He hits like 300 when he's in the lineup. And even when he's hurt, he still provides value to the team. So that was I thought the White Sox were going to go after him. He's 35.
Let's hope anybody else.
Yeah. But
let's stop making the Astros better.
So the Astros get better with that one, or at least they are better with that one with him in the lineup. I mean, man, that's
I'm still sniffing this thing. That smells fantastic.
Back to the bourbon portion. I'm on my second pour, and I'm almost gone with it. So a lot of free agency signings. I think we're past. We mentioned it last week. We had to make it till about today. And now things are probably going to quiet down until the end of the year. This is December 20th. We're heading right into the holiday weekend. It is Hanukkah. So for those who are Jewish, they're celebrating the holiday. They're probably not going to sign. I don't know how many Jewish baseball players there are in the league, but I'm sure there's quite a few. There's probably more than we know. But We're into that holiday. We're also in Christmas season. Christmas is a season, but also this is the week where it really starts to ramp up. We're a couple days away. This is where more so family takes hold rather than worrying about signing for baseball. So probably not going to see a ton of signings, maybe a few here or there. But the major guys are gone. I had a list last 2 weeks of like the best guys available, and there's only 2 or 3 who were even left on that list from a couple weeks ago.
Say there was a tier A, B, and C, and the A's and B's. Maybe some of the B's are still, but the A's are gone for sure.
All the B's are gone too. The C's are the only ones that are still around. So I just basically made us a list of free agents by position.
And looking at this list, you could form a competitive team that would beat the Oakland Athletics, that would beat the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Or beat the Miami Marlins. Probably the Reds, to be honest. So one of the big things I noticed was Eric Hosmer was DFA'd this past weekend.
I don't get that one.
Well, I think...
Is he that bad? He's free.
He's been rough. He wasn't free. He's making like $30 million a year, I thought.
He was free to the Red Sox. The Padres were paying his salary this year.
For this upcoming season?
I believe so. I believe he was going to be basically just league minimum.
It had to be a 40-man roster issue. That's the only thing.
Well, that was the same time crunch that they let Jeter Downs go, the prized prospect that came over in the Mookie Betts trade. That trade just looking awful, more awful by the year.
Yep. Dodgers got that one. But so Eric Hosmer becomes available. I wouldn't be opposed to the Cubs going after him on a minimum deal, just because his first base skills, like he's a pretty good Gold Glove first baseman. And he's got leadership. He's been part of a World Series team. You're not asking him to be the best player on your team, right?
I mean, we knew since he signed with the Padres that as soon as he was a free agent, he was being overvalued from what he was. And the moment he signed, I remember in my fantasy talk, the moment he signed that deal, we knew it was a bad deal. I think everyone in the league knew it was a deal, but they felt like,
wasn't it?
The Padres needed a first baseman. He was the top available first baseman available, and the Padres wanted to spend. Yeah. But he's won gold. He was 2011. He rookied, third place rookie of the year in 2011. Gold Glove in 13 and 14 and 15. And
so
then
3 years in a row.
17. 3 years in a row. Missed a year. He still played a full season in 16. And then Gold Glove again. And Silver Slugger. He had a great year in 2017 with the Royals. Of course, his career year with the Royals, contract year.
Yeah.
And since then, he hasn't won. He hasn't been an MVP candidate. He hasn't been a Silver Slugger, Gold Glove. His numbers just completely dropped as soon as he went. Now, Pepco Park is not a hitter-friendly park, but he hit 318, 385, 498 his final season with the Royals, and he went to 253, 322, 390. I mean, just drastic drop in numbers as soon as he signed that contract. And you used to see that a lot more, I feel like. I feel like it's gotten better. But it used to see a lot more guys play in that contract year. You sign them, and the decline happens immediately.
8-year, 144 is what we signed for. I knew it was 140 or something there. So, wow. Well, he's available, so you'll get him at the minor league, not minor league, but the major league minimum, wherever he signs. Not a bad name. I mean, he's not. Here's another name, Brandon Belt. You've got Yuli Gurriel. You've got Miguel Sano. Drury's off the list, but Dom Smith, Cubs shouldn't sign him, but
I wouldn't be bad about Brandon Belt.
Again, Belt or even Mancini, they've got that veteran leadership who have the pedigree of winning World Series, right? Even with Hosmer. Middle infield.
So first base, who would your top three that you'd want in order?
Probably go Belt, Yuli, Mancini, in that order. With
Hosmer's not in there.
With Hosmer at 4, because Yuli's not.
Miguel Sano. Did I see
Sano
this on your list? He's a free agent.
Mm-hmm. He's a free agent.
I'd probably go Belt, Yuli, Mancini as well.
That's my list. I'm fine with any one of those three. I like Mancini as a person. I don't think he's had the best last year. Well, dude, the guy survived cancer, came back, and just won a World Series. So, like, kudos to you. But
Right.
and he's not signing a huge deal just for that reason. You've got one player at third base, worth note, and he's old. Evan Longoria.
Somebody on Bleacher Nation comment section was raving, we should get Longoria. I think it'd be a great
1 year, $6 million, fine. But don't pay him any more than that. Again, veteran leadership, but he's never been part of a winning team. He was with the Rays when they had a decent team who made the playoffs, but he's never been part of a team. I guess he was on that team that went to the World Series in, 2009? What was it? 2008. Was it 2008 the Phillies won? Because 2009 was the Yankees. Yeah, 2008 Phillies and then 2009 Yankees, because Yankees' last World Series was 2009 versus the Phillies. So, middle infield is kind of barren now that the 4 shortstops are gone. Elvis Andrus, Rafael Iglesias, Danny Mendick, Marlon
Now,
Gonzalez.
could Elvis Andrus play third base, you think? I wouldn't be mad about
Could.
give
I
him a
don't
shot
think
over
he's
there.
played much in his career there, though. And I don't know what you're going to pay him. Outfield, probably the best depth outfield-wise. Obviously, you have 3 positions. But Michael Conforto, which has been a hot name as of late. I didn't realize Adam Duvall was still out there. Jurickson Profar. Forgetting his name. Pollock, first name.
AJ.
I knew it was an A. I just couldn't think of the middle name, which is J. David Peralta, who was a hot name with the Diamondbacks for a while and just kind of has not gotten quite the recognition on the free agency market.
The full season. He never put a full season together. He was always hot for like the first 5 months, and then he just would always fall off.
And then
He
you're
was
getting
always a great pickup.
yeah. And then you're getting into depth, which is Tommy Pham, Robbie Grossman,
I don't want that guy. I don't want Tommy Pham
No.
anywhere near our
No.
clubhouse.
and then Tyler Naquin, Will Myers. Lorenzo Cain would be an interesting name for some of those veteran-needed teams, right? Him being
Yeah.
not a player who's going to play all
He'd
the
be a
time.
good leadership guy. He slaps the ball good.
Kevin Pillar, if you're looking for defense, Adam Engel, or Jackie Bradley Jr., who's been an abomination the last couple of years. Catchers.
All right, who's your top 3 there in outfield?
Probably going Conforto, Profar, and Pollock. That's my go.
I feel like if Pollock could stay healthy, he
That's
just
the
cannot
issue.
stay healthy.
That's the issue. He opted out of $13 million to play with the White Sox this year. He had a $13 million contract option. So he's obviously thinking he's going to get more than that.
Conforto, I remember him as much because in 2014, that's who the Cubs were linked to the most in the draft. The Cubs were going to take Conforto at 4, and they reached and got their boy, and my boy, Schwarber, at 4. And I love that pick ever since. But anyways, Conforto, I never really saw it. I guess he was a good average guy. I don't know that he's my number 1 health-wise because he didn't play for last year. So him and Pollock are right there of who I'd want health-wise. I think Conforto could be sneaky deal if you get him on the cheap, but it doesn't sound like you will.
I think he's probably going to
Duvall.
sign a 1-year deal. In my mind, he signs a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal with one of those as an opt-out year just to try to get himself back on the market. His last year with the Mets, he played in 125 games and he hit .232 with 14 home runs. But in 2020, he played almost the full season. Remember that it was a shortened season because of COVID. He hit .322 with 9 bombs. That's obviously the outlier year.
That's MVP candidate right there.
Right, but he hit .257 in 2019 with 33 home runs. So that's not...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he had 28. So let's go through 17, 27, 2018, he hit 28, 2019, he hit 33. So, and then he hit 9 in 2020. If you factor that out,
So a real
times
power
3,
threat.
27, power threat. And then he hurt his shoulder on a swing. I think he dislocated it on a swing in 2021, and that was the issue. And I think that's what he had surgery to fix this past year, which is why he didn't play. He's got an OPS career plus of 124. So he's 24% better than the average player.
Yeah. So I think him and Pollock are right there. If they can put healthy seasons together, they'd be my number one of that selection.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Profar is a sneaky good pick. He can play all over the field. He's a Ben Zobrist.
He was a number one overall prospect. Number one
overall
rated when he was with the Rangers.
Yep.
So he's got that pedigree. He played pretty well with the Padres. Not amazing, but I think he was with Oakland for a short amount of time as well, a couple of years back. But that's what you're looking at in the outfield. Middle infield is kind of barren, as I mentioned. Andres Iglesias, we already went over a couple of those names. Catcher, which is a need for our Cubs, but there's not a whole lot out there. Gary Sanchez, who is a former MVP, well, not MVP, but All-Star, I believe. Tucker Barnhart is an interesting name, and so is Alfaro, and then Roberto Perez. Those are really the only four catchers worth their salt on the market that are going to be.
I don't want anything to do with Gary Sanchez. I think he's too much. He was such a power threat early in his season, early in his career, and now I think he's just a mess at the plate. I don't know that he's even a defensive upgrade. Is he a good defensive catcher? I thought mostly his value comes from the bat.
Right, and I think that's why if I were a team looking for a catcher, I'm going with Tucker Barnhart, who's not going to be your everyday catcher, but he's that guy that Wilson wasn't with the pitching staff. Pitchers love to throw to Tucker. In his career, he's hit 245, which isn't awful, to be honest. You could ask
Not these days.
Power-wise, it's not there. But you're not asking for a whole lot out of your catcher, especially he's going to split time with Gomes if that's how they decide to go. He had 1 home run last year. He had 7 the year before with Cincinnati, and then in 2020 hit 5. He's not going to be an all-star there, but he's got a gold glove twice with the Reds in 2017 and in 2020. So he can handle a pitching staff. He can field his position. That's a low-key pickup, and I believe, did he get DFA'd by the...
was he with the Reds last? Who was he with last?
No, he was with the Tigers. I know he got traded from the Reds to the Tigers before this past year.
Sorry.
Yeah, part of that whole exodus with the Reds earlier into the year. But that's a name. And then we move to the pitchers. There's not a ton of high-end pitching talent outside of relieving. Your top
but there's a rotation there. There's a rotation. I wouldn't say there's a number one.
It's an old rotation, though.
It's an old rotation.
Like, really, the pitcher that actually intrigues me the most is Dylan Bundy.
Yes, I saw that on your list here too. Is he a lefty too?
No, he's a right-hander.
He's a righty.
But he was a power pitcher with him and Gosman. Remember, they were supposed to be these two studs that came up with the Orioles. They were top 10, top 20 prospects, and they just phased and fizzled as they came up.
Just like every Orioles pitcher has done.
Yeah.
Jake Arrieta.
So is it something where you need to give him I think he had a pretty good year with the Angels. Or no, that's who just had him. He feel like
he can't stay healthy as well. Dylan Bundy can't stay healthy as well.
He didn't play with the Twins this year, and that's what the team he was with. Or let's see. He pitched 140 innings with the Twins at a 4.89 ERA. 2020 with the Angels, he had a 3.29 ERA. He's got a career 4.74. He's not a bad flyer arm. Not a bad flyer.
I'd be great to. I don't think the Cubs have any more room in rotation options unless they wanted to make a deal and trade some of that depth away, which they could easily do. But I think he's a great flyer for any team that needs another pitcher. He'd easily, at worst, he's a number 5.
Mm-hmm.
He is a strikeout pitcher, I believe. At least he was earlier in his career.
Mm-hmm.
At least a K per inning. I think anything over that qualifies you as a strikeout pitcher. But looking at his numbers with Minnesota this past year, he was not a strikeout pitcher.
No,
94 strikeouts in 140 innings.
I think that's where he lost it this year because I believe before then he was mowing people down.
Per inning.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you have to wonder, was he hurt? So, as I mentioned, old starting pitchers, Nathan Eovaldi. Okay. back into the rotation guy. Corey Kluber.
He's always felt like more of a thrower than a pitcher, Evaldi. The Red Sox gave him that extension after he won them the World Series the one year because he just came out and pitched 9 innings
from Tampa.
innings.
Yeah. Rich Hill, old. Zach Greinke, old. Mike Minor, Drew Smyly. I'm okay if the Cubs were to bring him back. Michael Wacha. They did.
They brought Smiley back yesterday.
Oh, I did not
or
see
the day
that.
before.
Well,
yeah. It was a very quiet signing. It wasn't announced like, hey, here's how many dollars it is, but Smiley's back with the Cubs.
Okay, in 2023. And that was the talk during the offseason, is that he was hoping to come, or like at the end of the season.
He wanted to stay.
Yeah. He was 7-8 with a 3.47 ERA in in 5 starts in August. He had a 9.9 ERA. So, yeah. It's not.
I think he was a prospect with
the
Rays coming up. Was it
the Tigers? Well, in 2010, he got drafted by the Tigers. I think he was part of that trade. Let's look. Drew Smyly.
Yeah, he was drafted 2nd round in 2010 by the Detroit Tigers. He had a 2 WAR and 22 games started for the Cubs in 2022. And yeah, he came up with Detroit, was traded in 2014
David Price.
at the trade deadline for David Price.
And Willie Adames.
To the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah, get that name.
Hey, that was a pretty good deal for
the Rays. Because Price only pitched for the Tigers for the rest of that season, and I think he signed with the Red Sox after that, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
So
Red Sox paid.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the Red Sox went on their spending spree, right?
Mm-hmm. With him and Carl Crawford, right?
Carl Crawford. That was not the same. Was that the same?
No. Carl Crawford then? Was with Theo. Carl Crawford was a Theo Pay.
Was that Pablo and Hanley Ramirez off season as well?
It may have been. That could have been that year, but
it was. The Red Sox went out, so it spent stupid money that off season.
Right. Red Sox, man. They don't spend as much as they did.
I have a Red Sox friend, and he is just thinking that the Red Sox ownership is too focused on saving money so that they can buy a football team.
They already have one.
Buy other stuff.
I thought they already had a soccer team.
Yeah, they're not focused on the baseball team. So he is just so scared that that Devers is going to get re-signed, and now all of a sudden, I think reports came out today or yesterday that they are, quote, galaxies apart. The Red Sox and Devers. And so immediately the Cubs, who have a whole third base, say, hey, throw the world at him for Devers now to get him to see what the Cubs is like. Yep, in the building.
Yeah, so Fenway Sports Group is the group that owns the Red Sox, technically, with John Henry as the leader of that, but Tom Werner's part of it. They own Liverpool and also the Pittsburgh Penguins, so more of a business opportunity than a baseball owner. As far as relieving, that's about it. You've got Craig Kimbrell, Aroldis Chapman, Taylor Rogers. Those are really your three. The name that intrigues me the most, Michael Fulmer on the back end, and then Matt Moore, who was shifted to the bullpen the last 2 years.
Fulmer as well.
Yeah. Michael Fulmer with the Tigers, he was a stud, and then he got hurt. He was top of the rotation.
Yep.
So, yeah, those are pretty much the guys to look out for here to sign over the next couple of weeks. I think a lot of that's not going to happen.
I'm very curious to see where Chapman ends up. Aroldis Chapman, after being the flamethrower, and now he's not the only flamethrower. And
being on the
now
outs
he's
with
had
the
some
Yankees,
off-season, some off-field issues. But yeah, so Michael Fulmer, 2016, Rookie of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
He was Rookie of the Year, and Cy Young, he won 10th place. He was 11-7, 159 innings, 132 strikeouts. He did 2017, he was an All-Star, and then he fell off. 2018, he was 3-12. 2019, he didn't play. and hasn't won more than 5 games since.
Yeah. So we'll see. We will see. So that's about it. That's about what we have left here on the market. There's not a ton of big names, as Michael's mentioned. You can field the team with the free agents, and I think you would win some games, obviously because it's baseball. But there's no game changer. There's no impact free agent left in my mind. It's just depth from here on out. Any other thoughts on the baseball side of things?
No, I'm happy to see that the players are signing. Last few years, I think even in 2018, we were waiting till February for guys to sign.
Yeah.
It was, hey, spring training starts next week. Where are you guys going to go? Florida or Arizona?
Yeah.
So
they were thinking about making like teams for spring training that were free agents. So
a free agent team. Yep.
So I think that was 2019. I think that was 2019 that started with Machado and Harper, because Jake Arrieta was part of that as well. So
3 years Philadelphia.
Yeah. That's what's going on in the baseball world. What should you look out for here in the next couple of weeks? Of course, I just sent Mikey a brand new care package full of bourbon samples and whiskey samples, so you can expect...
it was a great care package.
Yeah, so you're gonna hear...
Of course, I have to drink them with you. I can't drink them on my own.
That's right. Yeah, you have to. That's part of the deal here, pal. We are partners in crime. But expect some more bourbon and whiskey reviews. If you haven't heard the latest one already, that is Middle West Spirits, the Sherry Cask Finish, part of their Cask Finished series. Go check that out. Also, Hard Truth, big shout out to them. I just grabbed another bottle of Hard Truth the other day from Malloy's Liquors. They did a store pick of their mash bill too, which was fantastic. So I'll probably get you a sample there. Shout out Malloy's Liquors, good stuff there. They're out into Glen Ellen, Illinois. So if you're ever in the western burbs of Chicago, go stop in and grab yourself a store pick. I was this close to buying a maker's pick from them, which was fantastic as well. Shout out to Steve, Lynn, and Jamie, who had a big hand in all of that. It was between the Hard Truth and the makers. Having this already, I was like, I gotta go with the Hard Truth because they both were bomb. I don't know, like if I could have spent $160.
Did you get to sample them there?
I sampled both of those. I sampled a Pinhook. And
I love that when a store does that and has samples out to get you to be able to taste before you buy it. Love that.
Yeah, and I got to meet Steve. I've talked to Steve multiple times. He actually was the manager for my cousin who he managed one of the liquor stores that they own. But big shout out to Malloy's Liquors for that. I'll send you a sample at some point, Michael. But look out for a lot more bourbon reviews here in the next couple of weeks. We've got a lot on our list to get through, so bear with us. And a shout out to Daniel. He finally has your sample, so we will do... Let's do that next time. The blind review from Bourbon Hunt next week in our...
Yeah, once I have my full senses.
Yeah.
That'd be perfect. I gotta get all the notes out of something blind. I gotta put it to the test.
And then more free agency news. There's not going to be a whole lot that's going to be of note, but because most of the top 30 are gone and on to their next team. But keep an eye out for that. We'll have more breakdowns of that with our next baseball portion of the podcast. And
baseball-wise, we are 100 days from opening day already. 100 today.
Today. From opening day. 100 days. Still feels
we are
like
a bib away. We are a bottle and bond away.
We are a bottle of bond. We are an old Fitz proof away. But
and everyone say good luck to Brandon as he goes and decides if he does go get in line tomorrow morning.
It's 11:15 my time. I do not think I'm doing that at 4 a.m. tomorrow, but we'll see. So that's what you can look out for. We've been promising it for a while, but you'll get to know us here at some point. We'll do that. We've got probably a Bourbon 101 podcast on the way at some point here soon, but it is late. Let's get you to bed here, Michael. Let's get myself to bed. You can find us on Instagram at BarrelsPod. Michael, what's your handle if they're not watching on YouTube?
You can find me at BNB, that's like barrels and barrels, BNB_Burns.
And you can find me whiskey_weather, as I mentioned already. at Barrels and Barrels Pod on Instagram. You just search the same thing on Facebook, and you'll find us there also on YouTube. Twitter at Barrels and Barrels. Email barrelsandbarrels@gmail.com. We are on Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, and now on Amazon. Please rate us, review us, leave us an open and honest review. That's all we ask for. We want you to tell us what we're doing that you like, what we're doing that you don't like. We'll try to change it. Shout out to Germany and to everyone else who listens here to Barrels and Barrels of Bourbon and Baseball podcast. This has been a long, drawn-out episode 13. We thank you for staying with us. And if you are still with us, send us an email. I'll get you a sticker in the mail, and we'll go on our merry way. Any final words, Michael Burns?
No. Cheers to the first All-Star on my books and your second All-Star.
Yeah, go get yourself some Maker's Mark BRT-02. Limited edition, limited release, 2022. That's been it for episode 13 of Barrels and Barrels, of Bourbon and Baseball podcast. Hope you have a Merry Christmas, because this is our last one until Christmas. So cheers to you. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah.
Merry Christmas.
And we'll talk to you next week.
Let's go.